It's now 25 minutes after 8. This is Morning Express. It's time for us to talk about your money. And joining me to do that is Washeke Nduati Omanga from Centonomy. Good to have you yet again.
Good to be here, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, now, of course, many of us relate success to money.
Yes.
And I've had it said that for one to be successful, it is not accidental.
Yes.
It is a continual habit of doing something the way it's supposed to be done that ends you up in success. So I don't know whether I would be going wrong by thinking, even when it comes to money, for me to end up being wealthy or at least in a better financial state, then I need certain habits.
Absolutely. And I think the definition of madness is doing the same thing expecting a different result. And with money, that's one of the things we keep doing. As you rightfully said, success is not a one-off. It's a process. It's a process.
Right.
A series of habits, and more so the way we relate and think about money. And a lot of time we think we are successful. That's the thing with money. We think we are successful, but financially, I once wrote an article and I said, we are speeding down the highway of poverty in a luxury vehicle.
Wow.
Yeah. So people, we have the illusion just because I have a great lifestyle, I have a great job title, I'm wearing great clothes, I live in a great house, I am wealthy. And I think if we're not careful, our lifestyles will actually lead us into poverty. And there are a couple of things, and I'll tell you how I learned this, When one day I didn't have a salary. I came to a situation, and a lot of people have faced this situation. They've lost their job, they've been retrenched, they're unable to work, they've gone and started a business like I did, and you don't have a salary. So I'm going to ask anyone listening to this interview today, if your salary was not paid or delayed for 2 weeks, what would happen in your life?
How would you how would you get by?
How would you sustain your lifestyle? And whenever we ask this in our classes, people are like, can that happen? I won't pay rent, I won't fuel the car, I won't be able to buy food, I won't pay school fees. So you can have a great lifestyle. Michael, you can be driving the biggest car in the world, but still your answer is still the same. I wouldn't be able to drive that car if I didn't have this salary.
So maybe just to take you back a little bit, is there a definition for financial success?
Wealth is calculated by not what you have, but how many, that answer, how long can you survive if your regular form of income was not there? If you did not turn up at work, how long can you survive? And that's why you'll find people who have, and I've interviewed a lot of people on this area, you'll find that the tea lady is wealthier than a lot of people who are now earning 200, 100, 300,000 shillings, Because if she did not come to work, she'll tell you about her chickens, she'll tell you about the shamba she has, she'll tell you about, even when she's not making tea there on Saturday, where mandazis are being delivered to, and you actually realize she can survive longer without that salary. What about us? So we keep earning more money, but we keep increasing our lifestyle.
So I guess that would probably also answer the question as to why, despite that, because we handled this with Stan some time ago, why it is that despite a salary increase, I still seem to have the same problems when it comes to financial issues.
We have the same problems because the world is never going to run out of places to spend money on. There's always a bigger house. There's always more clothes. There's always a better car. There's always a better phone. And Michael, I'm not here to say those things are bad, because I think it would be, what would life be without finer things in life, But it's just to understand what is the balance that I'm going to strike. The trap we're getting into, it has become all about that. It has become all about the lifestyle. So if my salary is increased by 30,000 shillings, I spend 30,000 at best or 40,000. I go and say, oh, with that extra increase, I can borrow. I can borrow more to buy a bigger TV, But if I was to say, okay, 30,000, I'll allow myself to spend 10 or 15, but the 15,000, I'm going to now start accumulating assets. So assets are investments that the day I don't work, or I choose not to work, I can buy bread and butter. Because what we are seeing, and we go and talk to a lot of people who are almost retiring, they're lost. They're like, without the next salary, can I even afford to buy bread and milk? I thought retirement was going to be my sunset years I enjoy. But we asked, they actually realize when I wake up that day, what's going to put food on the table? And they don't have that. So what's going to put food on the table the day you choose not to work?
Not to work.
In fact, you'd want it to be a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
And not many of us actually have it as a choice.
Yes.
Sometimes it's circumstances that force us not to get to work.
Exactly.
Because maybe either you've lost your job,
yes,
business has had to close down, or something.
Or something like that. Yeah. And we've structured our financial lives in a way that we're always going to be dependent on that source of income coming in.
Okay.
The bigger car you buy means you're just more dependent on that salary. And the big car is not the problem. You've just got to question, is this the right time to be making this sort of purchase?
We'll come to affordability. Because there are times we think we can afford something.
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is we can't. You've just given an example. If I'm given, for instance, a pay rise of 30,000.
Yeah.
Naturally, I imagine that now I can afford something worth 30,000 per month or more.
Yes.
It could either be put towards rent, it could be towards maybe repayment of a car, it could be one of those. But before we get there, is there a way one can audit their lifestyle?
Yes.
How do you do that?
It starts with interesting, I was having this conversation yesterday. It starts with your ability to prioritize. Yeah? Because this is what is happening. And I like that word you use, I can't afford. Because someone listening to me is like, yeah, what she's saying is great, but me, I can't afford. I can't afford to make ends meet.
Right.
And I've talked to enough people to investigate this I can't afford mentality. And what you're finding, sometimes it's genuine, but sometimes what you're finding is I can't afford. And I'll give you a very basic example. I can't afford to meet my school fee obligations on time. School fees is one of those things people act like it's a surprise.
Yeah. Like you didn't know it was coming.
It was like the children disappeared. Yeah. But when you lifestyle audit, you tell them, investigate your lifestyle. They find out, okay, I'm saying I can't afford school fees, but every weekend I'm in the bar spending 5,000 shillings. Yeah. So what I'm telling them, it means in your life you're prioritizing the bar over and above the school fees. For someone else, that could be shoes. For someone else, there's so many people who say, I can't afford to take an extra course to improve myself, but they want to buy a new outfit for every wedding that comes by. So we also have, when lifestyles are driving us to poverty, part of the problem is we have lost the ability to prioritize. So sit down and investigate your expenses. Because a lot of people ask me what percentage should be rent, yeah? But the correct answer is you look at what percentage you are paying on rent and ask yourself, am I satisfied? Some people have found themselves paying 50% on rent. Are you satisfied paying 50% on rent, but only putting 2% towards investments and savings? Or 50% on rent, yet you can never seem to go for the holiday that you value.
You've always...
Yeah, so I think we've got to get back to that point of what are the things you value. Financial planning is not about telling you what's bad. That there's nothing bad. Yeah, the cars are not bad, the holidays are not bad. But get to a point where you understand what you value, not other people, you. Yeah, and when people do that, they realize, okay, then the bar is not that important, but every year I'd like to go on holiday. Or I'd like my kids to go to a better school. And I'm willing to cut down on the entertainment.
How do we come up with our value system? Because evidently majority of us place value on the wrong things.
Yes.
And until you do this audit and be honest with yourself, then you never actually discover that, wait a minute, I've been spending so much money on non-essentials, whereas the essentials are suffering. So what is it that schools us to this value system that is so warped?
I think it takes, and I'll tell you what we do in our classes, what exercise we take people through. It takes a bit of soul searching, to be quite honest, but it's almost projects. Imagine God decided life is over now. Are you happy? So what are those things that you are not happy about? If everyone was now said, okay, it's time to go to heaven, or the end of your life, if a movie was made about the end of your life, what do you want to see playing out in that movie? So we actually ask people, what do you want to experience? And when they look at it from that perspective, they start dropping all the certain things. They realize, okay, this going to and eating out every weekend is not important. These are the things that are important. So spend the time and truly reflecting and understanding, is it me who wants it, or is it other people? And you can always tell when it's other people who want it when you're buying something to get something from someone else. We buy the latest phone because you want to show your friends that you have the latest phone. And then it's good. They admire your phone for 2 weeks. Then they get bored and life goes back to normal. And you get bored. Then you think the answer is the next phone. So you're now caught into the trap of spending to impress other people. But it's to sit back and say, is the phone really important to me? Or is something else more important to me? Is taking a course more important to me? Yeah.
Okay. Now, looking at those who are successful, we come up with certain principles and value systems that possibly they have. I mean, when you read books, you'll see like 7 habits of the most influential or whatever people. Now, when it comes to finances and wealth, what lifestyle do the successful people embrace?
They always have a lifestyle that they can afford to live, meaning they are never going to spend over and above what they earn. That is at the basic level, yeah? So they always spend below what they earn. That is number one, whichever way you look at it, yeah? So if you're spending exactly what you earn, you're just, nothing is happening. You're not too bad, but you're not moving forward.
You're not progressing.
You've got to just get the discipline of, I've got to spend below what I earn. But it's also how you see that. It's not a sacrifice. It just means I'm putting, for example, 30% of my salary every month towards what we're talking about, towards the kind of things that the day I am not earning a salary, it can put bread and butter on the table for breakfast. Yeah. So they're very conscious about balancing the present with the future. We are all about the present. We only want to live for the present, and which is good, but we have to start saying, what is going to sustain this? Is my lifestyle sustainable? So rather than spending 100,000 shillings, they'd rather say, let me spend 60,000 shillings because 60,000 shillings is what I can see will be sustainable. So go and buy the kind of car that is sustainable for you to be able to afford, with or without that income. Go for the type of holiday that is sustainable. So they look for sustainability more than anything else, and even the way they approach investments is not just about going and buying the biggest plot of land. That's what I've noticed about wealthy people. You know, Kenyans are all about the plot, a plot. And property is a great investment. Not everybody's going to do property, but it's more about what is that property going to bring you. Because I've also seen this, Michael, people with acres and acres of land, but they cannot go to the supermarket and buy food. So acres and acres of land, when you need it, is it giving you income? So at some point you needed to convert that property into something that brings in cash flow. Yeah.
Okay, now for majority, we end up to a question that I know you've probably faced many times. And this is to do with the fact that, now, let me start from the description that we gave. When your salary is added, does not necessarily make you wealthier. If your habits are wrong. If your lifestyle is wrong. So, for us to break it down for the viewer, for them to understand fully, regardless of the amount of money you earn, what percentages go towards what? You know, if I'm earning whatever amount of money, then is there a scientific way that would help me begin to actualize this by putting certain percentages? For instance, if it's rent, this would be a reasonable percentage. If it's transport, this would be reasonable. Then that way I know at least savings should be this much.
I think you've asked one of my favorite questions. I get this question all the time. And I think this is where we are like, we have to challenge the thinking behind that question. We are concerned with rent, what percentage should be rent, what percentage should be food, what percentage should be transport. But if you look at it from a wealth mindset, it doesn't matter, because all that is money going to somebody else. The wealth mindset is about being very conscious about what percentage or what amount of money is working for me. So it's not about how much is going out. What we should be questioning is what percentage should I be investing? Because honestly, in the long term, you will realize whether you spend 20% on rent and 10% on transport or vice versa, it will not make an impact to how wealthy you are. What will make an impact is that 30 or 20% that you are saving and investing is what makes you wealthy. So the 20, 30, have no significance to your wealth at all. Because it's, at the end of the day, it was food, Nakumatt. It was transport, fuel. It was money all going to somebody else. We have to start watching, and that's why we're saying, watch the lifestyle. The lifestyle leads us to poverty because we concentrate on planning how much money is going to other people, yeah? We've got to now become the CEOs of our money, yeah? You know, a CEO manages resources in an organization. Manage your resources. You are the CEO of your money. Start saying, what percentage do I want to be, go do the things that are working for me. So go do the investments. And I can give you a general guide, but people should work towards having at least 35 to 40%. Work that, and note I use the word work towards because I can imagine everybody listening
would be like,
what?
That's almost like
what?
half my salary.
But yes, but the trick is to start. If today you can do 5, you see that 35% does not come instantly. That I'm saying it's a progress. But now that
35% that we're working towards is going towards what? The
kind of investments that will actively grow or provide an income. So it's not a savings account. Yeah, okay. It's money that over the long time it will grow, it will beat inflation, so that's such that it will actually provide an income. But start with what you have, because once you're conscious about that, what starts to happen is your income increases, you become more conscious about what amount of money am I putting towards working for me. So you find people who start, in a few years, they're actually able to do 35 or even more. People who are wealthy, you'll find they save even over and above 50% of their income.
Wow. So the first thing to do here, if I get you right, correct me if I'm wrong, is the mindset.
Yes.
Because the mindset that we have is how much should I pay to rent?
Yes.
But that rent, really, you're paying somebody else. And I remember reading a book where the author was saying that majority of us actually work for others.
Yes.
Because when you go to the shop, you've paid the shopkeeper.
Yeah.
When you go to the barber, you've paid the barber. Yeah. When you pay rent, you've paid the landlord. Yeah. But nobody pays you.
Yes.
So even when you're working, your salary literally is dispensed to other people.
Yes.
So what you're saying here is we change our mindset such that now we're looking at me. Become selfish for once.
Become selfish. Then that way you can question, am I really happy doing 50% on rent, but only 5% paying myself? So when you start looking at it from that perspective, you start understanding some of the things you're doing don't work.
You're not being fair to yourself.
You're not being fair. Am I really happy doing 15% to the bar? And I use the bar a lot because honestly, we are drinking a lot as a society.
We are Kenyan. Drinks a lot,
15% to the bar, yet only 2% to me. So when you start looking at it from that perspective, you're making the bar owner rich. You're making the landlord rich. You're making, when you're buying that bigger car, you start saying, who's the beneficiary? The gas station, the mechanic, the insurance company. All that has nothing to do with you. In the long term, wealth, that thing, wealth doesn't lie. It's habits. It's gonna, when it's between you and your money, you're gonna be left. When you do, that retirement day comes, it will be all about what did you put aside to work for yourself. And even if you do spend money, that's what you've got to say, at least even though I spent money, this was of value to me. It is one of those experiences that I wanted. If the world ended today, I would be happy. I'd be happy. For me, I'd be happy I traveled. I know it's money that went to someone else, but that experience meant something to me. And you can remove the other things that you feel that even though the world ended today, you really you would not have cared.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, you've talked about working towards 35%, but you can start from whatever part you're able, whether it's 5% or whatever amount. Now, the other challenge will be to identify these things that you're saying that are going to add value to my 2 weeks of no income coming in. How do I identify them? Because I may say, maybe I want to go into selling shoes.
Yes.
And that 35% goes towards buying shoes from Turkey.
Yeah.
I can't put these shoes here. Yeah. And guess what? Nobody's interested.
Sells. Yeah.
So how do I identify something that will now be of value to me so that 35%, I am not exchanging, I'm not risking it, I think is the one.
Okay. One is everybody here, everybody in this room has a job and they're good at their jobs. Why are they good at their jobs? Because it's something that they do consistently. And it's the same thing with investments, yeah? Whether it's investments in shares or property or business ideas, it's not an instant, it's not today you decide to invest and tomorrow you go get the best property deal in the world. It's going to take time, but it's a matter of now saying, my eyes are open, I want to invest in shoes. Let me start doing research. Let me start understanding what are the opportunity. Because what you're talking about is how do I identify the right opportunity?
Right.
Yeah? And opportunity is all about meeting a demand. Yeah, investments work when they are meeting a demand. So if your idea is shoes, go and say, don't just buy shoes because you thought it was an excellent idea. Go and say, who would buy the shoes? Let me talk to them and say, I'm thinking of buying shoes from Turkey. Would you buy? What is the price that you would buy at? What would make you spend a bit more? So do the research, and then you know you will have to take a risk. The biggest risk is not taking any risk, but it will be a calculated risk. So the research is fundamental. And learning, Michael, learning did not stop when we finished university. It didn't stop. Sometimes we think learning stopped, so everything else will just come automatically, and sometimes that's why we want the instant solutions. But just understand, let me go back with a student mind and start saying, I want to invest in shares. What do I need to learn about shares? Just like your job, the more and more you look at that stock market page, the more and more. It may look like Greek in the beginning. Yeah?
You don't even know those words.
You don't know what they're saying. Listen to the news. And I'll challenge everyone saying, just after 2 weeks, even if you think it's Greek, just do it for 2 weeks. Every day, go, if you hear a word they didn't, call a stockbroker, understand what they mean. In 2 weeks, there'll be a difference between your understanding of the stock market. And go and just try and find places where you can actually learn. Yeah.
All right. Many of us tend to think that the only way out of our situation of not having ends meet is business.
Yeah.
Is that the only avenue that one has to put this 35%, which we are working towards, for a better future?
No, absolutely not. It's not business. And I guess, let me tell you why many people think it's business. It is because that whether you are in a business or whether you're working for someone else's organization, the fact is your salary, not many people want to tell them, can never be your only source of income. That's the foundation. Your salary can never be your only source of income. So it's starting to understand what other things can bring in a source of income. It could be investment in property. It could be shares that are giving you a dividend. It could be investment in somebody else's business. It could be a business. So it's just saying, I am looking for another source of income, along the way building another source of income. What form is that source of income coming from? There are people who have, in their careers, they got to a level where they're invited to use their skills and sit on boards.
Right.
There are people who become advisors. So it's just understanding that your everyday income, whether it's a salary from the way you work or it's your business income, cannot be your one source of income. So I think what we're challenging is the single source of income mentality. Yeah, I'm going to be out there, and there are many employers who put funny clauses in their contracts, but I'm challenging that as well. Right. It cannot be your only. You have to build other sources of income. Some of those sources of income will require you, like a business, but others can be, I've done clever investments through my chama or into property. I have a tenant paying me income. Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is not found in a syllabus. You know, what we're talking about here is not something you live and sit in an accounts class and you're taught. Because in accounts, they'll teach you how to balance. You know, this is the money coming in, this is going out, this is how it balances, but they don't teach you how to do this. Are there people who are naturally endowed with this information, even if they don't even know it? Or is it out of possibly mentoring by others who've been successful that you learn this?
I can tell you what happened, because I founded Centonomy, and Centonomy, this is what we teach, was I naturally endowed? It's life that taught me. Because when I got out, I was like, what? No salary, can't survive. What have I been doing? I did work in the investment industry for a while, so I knew knowledge I had about investments, but I'd never practically used it. So even the people who work in industries where you think they should know, when it comes to their money, they look at it in a different way. So it's just, I just got curious. I started going and talking to people who have created wealth and understanding what they have are doing. Because with money and personal finance, it cannot be about what you read in a textbook. It has to be what is practical. And if you notice, whenever we come here, we're talking about practical things that people can actually do. So step by step, I learned that, and then we put together the syllabus that we now teach at St.
Autonomy. All right, now coming back to lifestyle, what are some of the lifestyle misnomers that we have that possibly lead us to poverty, but we don't even know? Like you mentioned, you are driving towards poverty in a luxury car. What are some of those lifestyle things that maybe drive us towards poverty, yet we think they are rewards to us that make us feel that, we belong?
Okay. One is we've talked about this, we're living beyond our means when we actually, and the reason we do that is people do not understand where their money is actually going. So this is beyond doing a budget. It's now starting to have a relationship with your money and saying, even to anyone watching, just track your money you're spending for 1 week.
Like you've always said, write down.
Write it down.
Regardless of if it's just a mandazi.
You start to understand where your money is going. We get into the trap. I was talking to a group of young people, and I was telling them, don't get into the trap of your first big item purchase to be on debt. Try and actually buy a fridge or a car, at least a portion of it saved. Because once we get into the psyche of borrowing from our lifestyle, it will be with you until you're 50, 60 years old, where you're borrowing for a lifestyle. We start building flosets instead of assets, and that's what you're talking about. We get comfortable in our flosets.
What are flosets?
A nice looking house, a nice looking, you must get me to come and talk about demystifying the home, a nice looking car, a nice looking TV, a nice looking phone, and this is where the lifestyle tap, nice looking clothes. And we continue putting our money into those things, more into that than paying ourselves. So we build flosets, but let's say you are retired one day. How will your nice wardrobe help you put bread and butter on the table?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. There's no special aisle in the supermarket that says well-dressed people walk through
and buy cheap
and buy cheaper things. No.
Give you a discount.
No, so we spend money on looking good and not money on things that will help us sustain a comfortable lifestyle. We spend to impress, as we said before. You're spending because of other people, and mostly this poverty is coming about because we fail to plan. People have no plan for their lives. We don't know where they were going. We don't know where we are coming from. In fact, the good book says, without vision, people will perish. And it's not just to do with money. It's even in your career. You find that people have not said, that is where, in 3 years, that is where I want to go, and this is actually what I am going to do about it. That is simply what a plan is. So it can be with your finances, it can be with your business, it can be with your career. Where do you want to be in 3 years? So when you don't have a plan for your life, you find that you're blown by the wind. That's why anything goes. That's why people will call you on Saturday and you will go and spend money. They'll call you again on Sunday, you will go and spend money. But if your plan that you are committed to is in front of your eyes, you now start saying, okay, this I'll say yes to, this I'll say no to, and your plan has got to be more important to you than paying other people.
And unfortunately, from what you're saying, then what I gather is that our lifestyles are mainly fueled by just public acceptance. The reason why you have that nice car, that nice home, that nice everything is not so much because it is practical, but because you want approval. How does one overcome that? Because that's something we have learned over time. You want to belong. You'll find even in school, there are children who will do things that are not right, not because they really believe or have not been taught, but they find that they want to belong. That aspect of wanting to belong financially, how do we overcome that?
And as human beings, I think that will always be there. I think it would be very theoretical for me to sit here and say, stop wanting to belong. It's completely, it won't work, But I think I'll just tell you, for me, I think that getting in touch with what do I want? I want to belong, yes, but what is more important? The belonging or the vision that you have for yourself? I think without a vision for your life, you will be trapped in belonging. So belonging is okay, but when you have something that is driving you that is stronger than wanting to belong, you start managing the
process of getting there.
The process of getting there. And then also understanding the belonging, who you can't belong to everybody. Who is important in the belonging?
Right.
So you may have some close friends, you may have family that, yes, their approval and acceptance is somewhat important to you, but we cannot belong to everybody. I meet you here today and suddenly I want to belong, I want to be accepted by you. And I think we look for that acceptance when we have not spent enough time figuring out ourselves and what we want. Because we must understand it is a trap. And when we try to belong with material things, it starts to get us into.
It starts to get us there. Now we are out of time and we need to wind up. And I know last time I got quite a number of people asking where you can be found away from, because some would like to maybe further and get more information and become more financially literate, as it were.
Okay. You can get us on our website, centonomy.com, CENTOnomy.com, and also you can call us on 0700 364-433, and we can tell you more about what we do, our programs, and other information that we have for you. We have a course teaching people how to take control of their money.
All right. And just to give you some feedback, there is Mishira here who says, Washeke, you changed my life. Thank you. I'm going to be my own CEO.
Okay, thank you, Mishira.
So there you have testimony. There's also somebody says, put 35% of your income into something that directly brings value to you. So reach out and, you're doing a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Washeke Duati Omanga, our guest this morning from Centonomy. And this is where we're going to wind up Morning Express. And just to give you feedback on some of the questions that we had earlier on, is the government concerns regarding security over court gathering on Wednesday misplaced? We have 62% saying yes, and we have 38% of you saying no. So that's the poll so far. Are the security concerns by the government misplaced? We have 62% saying yes and 38% of you saying no. Well, that's where we're going to wind up Morning Express for those of us on KTN Home. On KTN News, we've got News Track coming up at 9 o'clock, so do stay with us.